Welcome to Shirts and Ties, a culture and education podcast. I'm Kasey Schurtz.
And I'm Brian Miller.
Brian, what's happening today? You
Uh,
awake? You with us?
yeah, man. I'm groggy, but I feel like you and I always give these like passes. Like we're always like talking about how unprepared we are and how tired we are, and then so maybe there's a part of me that wants to give our listening audience like we do care.
I don't know why we're not a top 10 show yet.
Yeah, it's actually my sister. She's like, you guys keep like downing yourselves. Stop it. I was like, well, true, but
Oh, should we oversell?
I think so.
Dude, I researched so much.
Yeah.
So prepared. Probably going to change lives today.
No, I am. I mean, I'm groggy. Everyone's groggy. It's that end of October feel where everyone's ready for a small break.
Dude, I think everyone hates everyone at school now. People are the number of like just angry sounding conversations I had with people yesterday. I'm like,
Are you being sarcastic?
Did I do
being
something?
real?
No, I'm being real. Like it's late October, and this is the time of year where it gets real and it gets intense. And
Yeah.
I think everybody's like, whew.
So I'm actually glad you said that because, and I don't think you did it intentionally, but that actually is a segue into what I want to talk about.
Right.
Because I don't think I know you're right because you're telling me that's what you're experiencing in your school. And I would say, I mean, I wouldn't put it to that level in my school, but you do sense tiredness from teachers. You do sense maybe a little bit an exhaustion when it comes to behaviors and maybe like when I make a mistake now, like in an email or something, it's a little bit less gracious, right? It's more like, hey, get your shit together. That's the wrong date, right? Like it's there's a little bit more of like that edginess. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today is behavior. You did a great job a couple episodes ago where you said something that like principals are either engineers or artists. Stop typing. And
I told you I have to finish my notes. Wait, we were telling the audience we're well prepared, aren't we? I'll cut that.
So, but you did a great job a couple weeks ago when you said principals are either artists or engineers. And it just was helpful because when you just kind of give a picture to something, it doesn't necessarily solve the problem, but it gives your brain an opportunity to make sense of it and to explain it and to maybe begin to articulate your frustrations. Does that make sense? So now when you're frustrated with your boss, it's not because he's a shitty person, it's because he's an engineer and you're an artist. And so that sort of depiction or understanding, I think, is really helpful. And so talking about behaviors, I think this is true. It's the number one impact on teacher happiness is either student or staff behavior. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think the two biggest things are student behavior and just demands being placed on them that the staff don't think is important or helps them be a better teacher.
Okay.
Those two things are the constants.
Yeah. And I think it's also true to say that one of the reasons why we get frustrated with behavior is we don't understand it. And because we don't understand it, we attach negative connotations to it. Would you also agree with that?
Tell me more about we don't understand it.
We maybe don't understand why you would behave that way. We don't understand why you would react that way. We don't understand why you would think that way. And because we don't understand why you would, instead of, and maybe we do in the beginning of the year, we try our best to have some like investigative sort of, hey, what's going on, especially with kids. But starting now and kind of through the winter months, there's a little bit less curiosity and there's a lot more assumptions that you're doing this because your goal is to destroy, your goal is to harm, your goal is to annoy. Does that still ring true, you think?
I mean, I absolutely believe that the patience begins to run thin, and maybe we're going to get into this a little bit. I guess
This is the conclusion of my notes.
Good. Well, I'm done too because you wouldn't let me finish mine. So,
No, I'm this is obviously a big intro, but I want to get on the same page, and I think that what we're saying is true. Finish your thought.
well, let me add to that a little bit. Are the teachers and the students, and I think more of the responsibility goes on the teachers. Are they just tired of the repetitive, like, I've got to address this behavior again, this behavior again? Are they just tired from the job? Have they come to get to know their students so much that they don't have the patience we might have with a stranger? And now
Yeah,
we're
I think it's all of that. So I did a
yeah.
video. I'm trying really hard to do videos to my students. So like once a month during we have connections, the announcements will have a video of me just kind of talking about behaviors and talking about whatever, just trying to be a face and trying to be the voice of expectations. And so in the recent
Quick
one,
question:
yeah,
Do
it's not
you
going to
do
be an
you
honest one. You get the smirk on you. So what's your sarcastic asshole question?
well well do you pass out sunglasses or something so the kids don't have to deal with that shine, or what do you guys do? Is there
You're really helpful. Uh, I actually just turn the lights off when I do my
It's you can sort of see the whites of your eye, but nothing
yeah,
else because there's
yeah.
no lights on? Gotcha.
Um,
Alright.
but I did
I'm
one
so sorry.
recently that, I was again, it was inspired by an event where we do these things that, they used to be called hot seats, they're called something different now, but the intention is the team has a student or 2 that they feel like they need to bring in, like, we're at the next level of interventions, let's bring them in, let's talk to them, let's what's going on? And so this young individual was in need of one, but it was also I needed to be there because his behavior was getting just more and more aggressive. And when he walked in, he was like, "What's up?" And I got irritated by that. I was like, "Nope, try it again. Be more respectful, right?" And it kind of inspired this idea of our kids because he's a seventh grader. Seventh graders, like 2 months ago, were terrified coming into the building. They were terrified of walking into a classroom. They were terrified of making a mistake. And now there's this comfort. And so I made a video of saying, hey, when I first started dating my wife, I would put on the best clothes that I had. I would make sure that I was showered every day. I would make sure that I had my best foot forward every single time I was around my wife. Now, like, I fart around her, right? Like, the facade is gone. I'm way too comfortable. And that's good. And that there's like a familiarity and there's a trust, but also she deserves better, right? She deserves me to still be putting my best foot forward. And so I said that to my students of like, I love that you're getting familiar with your teachers. I love that we're getting more and more comfortable with each other. However, I still need you to be respectful to your teachers. I still need you to be respectful to each other. And I say all that and to answer your question, yes, we are getting to that time of year where we're kind of more relaxed. We're not putting our best foot forward. But it also is we're allowing it. And because you allow it, it
Mhm.
gets worse,
Yeah.
right? We give this excuse of it's October, we're tired. And so it reminds me of I sent this to you a couple weeks ago of this study done by a gentleman, and I'm gonna jack up his name, I believe. But in 1969, a psychologist named Philip Zimbardo, I think that's how you would say it. Um, he did an interesting behavioral study. He took 2 really nice cars and he put them in 2 locations in the country. One was in Bronx during the time where it was a struggling, poverty, crime-ridden community, and one in Palo Alto, California. And he parked them both. And unsurprisingly, the one in the Bronx, what happened to that car within hours, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, rock through the window, broken into, whatever,
Yeah,
right?
all this stuff, right? The one in Palo Alto, however, stayed for weeks. Nobody touched it. Nobody did anything until I forget what he did. He either like broke a window. I think he broke a window until he did something to the vehicle. And then once he did something to that vehicle, again, within a couple hours, within a couple days, that thing was stripped down and completely destroyed. Wheels taken off, vandalized, completely destroyed. And he now calls this, that's why, yeah, he broke a window, because he now calls it the broken window effect. And his point was people will follow the behavioral norms. And whatever they believe the norm is, they will follow. But once they get permission to act a certain way, they will follow that way. All they needed was permission to vandalize this car. And suddenly that was the norm. And then suddenly it wasn't just one or two people, it was a wave of people, which reminded me of your favorite psychologist that I know you agree with almost always, Malcolm Gladwell, in that he wrote Tipping Point. And one of the stories in Tipping Point that I really love is mob mentality. And he just talks about, like, you know, there's very few people who just will destroy things, who will incite chaos just for the sake of chaos. They don't need someone to break a window. They just want to do it. You, however, would never break a window by yourself. But if you see me do it, you just needed permission of one. And now you're willing to break a window, right? Somebody else, they saw me break a window and they thought, that's really dumb. Why would you do that? Then they saw you break a window and they're like, oh, I guess it's okay. They needed two people. And so now they break the window. And then that, goes down the line. Somebody else needed 4 people. Somebody else needed 5 people. And now suddenly you have a mob mentality doing something that everybody knows is wrong, but they were given permission by the actions of others to act. What do you have so far?
Yeah. Well, so when we had this conversation, and I wasn't quite sure what you wanted to do today, but you did mention the broken window theory. And so that's why I spent a decent amount of my time in prepping for today, finishing all my notes before we met this morning. And one of the things in Malcolm Gladwell, and this is probably where most people would encounter the broken window theory, is from some of the work that he did. And he's an absolute genius. He did.
He did. Absolutely. I didn't know that he did. Okay.
He did. Yep, he did. So, and he's an absolute genius. I love his books. I think one of the things that can be a little bit problematic in his work, and he has since acknowledged this, is sometimes it becomes oversimplified. Yeah. And here's kind of how I'm thinking about it. Like, something can be both true and false. Like, this theory, there's truth to it. And I'll give you
a genius and wrong.
Correct. Yeah, it happens. Not to me, but that's because I'm not a genius. I'll give you an example from my house. Jessica, if you're listening, this is out of love. Don't get angry. She likes to sit a basket on the stairs. And then you just kind of put stuff in that basket. I happen to think that if it's a place where people are meant to just walk, there shouldn't be anything there. But I will tell you that in the course of these years, that basket sitting on the stairs, and then maybe a second basket because there's just so much stuff that needs carried up, I now find myself also just setting stuff on the stairs. So it just took that one thing, and now I've seen baskets go on the stairs. It's not really what I would choose to do, but it's what we do now. And so now basket on the stair, more stuff on the stairs. In fact, I think we have like 5 or 6 treads with stuff just sitting there waiting to go somewhere else. So I think that general idea that small signs of disorder can snowball into much more chaos. I mean, I think that's absolutely true. Where I think we run into problems is what we do with that information. And isn't that a tale as old as time in education?
Are you singing Disney? Isn't that Beauty and the Beast? Tale as old as time? Beauty and the Beast. Keep going.
Yeah, I didn't have you singing Beauty and the Beast to me this morning, but we got there. Thank goodness.
I didn't have you quoting it this morning.
That's how I prepare for my episodes, is I watch Disney movies.
I feel like somebody paid you $1 of, like, if you could fit in a Disney quote into the next episode. Yeah.
That's right. Oh man, that's fun. We should have our listeners send stuff in, see if we can work it into our episode.
Easter eggs? Yeah, Easter eggs.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, okay.
Uh,
I broke you off. Sorry. What were you saying?
I have no idea anymore. No, I think the general idea is that much of what we're saying here with this broken glass theory is absolutely true, but I think the mistake that we end up making is how we respond to that. And I mean, we could get into that a little bit. Do you want me to get into that now?
Well,
Just what happened with it?
I do a little bit, but I also want to just make this point because I think it's important to realize we have tried to in recent episodes and even seasons to steer clear of the theoretical and the philosophical, the big ideas. But I do think this is a big idea that I want to wrestle with a little bit, um, just so we can understand, because I do believe behavior is the number one, if not number two, driver in teacher education, parents, people satisfaction is how people
Yeah.
behave, right? And so I love this condensed idea is that people don't act in isolation; they respond to cues. Right? We're always looking for cues. It's that idea of like read the room, right? You can be one place in your mother's house, a different person in your friend's house, and a different person at church, right? You respond to the cues around you. The norms, people have their norms. I said this phrase a long time ago. You didn't. You kind of batted it away like like an annoying fly. But I'm going to bring it back because I think it's really, really true. And we were talking about it. I used it in the context when we briefly mentioned the anxious generation. We both have some frustrations with it. But one thing that Malcolm Gladwell does really, really well, and one thing that anxious generation does really well, is they hit on what is actual rather than what is factual. Right? What is factual is the truth. This is the data. This is the norms. This is the rules. But actual is what people experience and perceive. And so the reason why I think the ancient generation was such a big deal, even though a lot of his data, even though a lot of his facts are manipulated or even downright incorrect, he's saying something that everybody agrees with or can empathize with or connect to. And so it becomes something that is a wave of popularity.
So here's what I think, and this has always been my struggle with Malcolm Gladwell. Again, he's a genius. I love his work. I've read it all. But with his work and with Anxious Generation, what happens is we take these single observations or these single bits of research and we presume it is true everywhere. And so we give too much power to a single story when it comes to policy making.
Okay, I
And
love what you just said though, because that is exactly what happens with behavior. It's exactly what happens with behavior. We take a single event, a broken window, and we make it holistic policy. This is now
yep,
okay. And that's
yep.
what they're doing. They're like they're gravitating to that human component where we understand the facts, we understand the rules, we understand the big stuff. All I need is permission with one. And if I get permission of one, now I can change my norms. I can change my behaviors. And that's what students are doing. That's what teachers are doing. And that's what I kind of want to dive into that of like when we allow this because we're tired, that's why you get a social shift in expectations.
That's so interesting because I think by the time we're done here, I'm going to say that what you just said is the most dangerous thing that occurs in schools. And it was the most dangerous response to the broken window theory. Because what I'm hearing you say is we can't tolerate anything, and it is our tolerance that has let behavior get out of control. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of, yes. And that's what I don't like it necessarily
Oh,
either, which is why when I have
oh,
my solutions, I don't love them because when you allow a rag to be placed on the stairs, Suddenly you have a rag and toys and a sweatshirt, and now Casey's falling down the stairs in the middle of the night. When you allow the kid to eye roll in your classroom and you permit it, or you allow the teacher to have a little bit of some sass in their tone towards another teacher in a staff meeting, and you permit it, what you permit, you promote, and suddenly that's going to become the norm. Now, I don't love the idea of walking around with a hammer and just smacking every little thing that pops up. I don't love that at all either. But I think what we're trying to say is look around us. Look at the anxious generation. Look at the broken window. This is what happens. This is human behavior. What are we going to do about it?
So I love this because honestly, when the broken window theory, when Malcolm Gladwell talked about it, I don't know if anybody knows, but what the outcome ended up being there, and it wasn't just to Gladwell, it was to the original research,
Sure.
was what you just said, was that what it meant was our cities could no longer tolerate
Sure.
anything,
And schools
any
have
bit of
adopted that
chaos.
zero tolerance policies everywhere.
Correct. And it led to over policing in our
Correct.
cities. It leads to over policing in our schools. Now, the question is, does that work? And I think the answer is overwhelmingly no, it doesn't. And that's where there's a disconnect. So let's get back to the concept of that cosmetic chaos, if you will, right? The broken theory, that first, crack in the window, the graffiti, right? This is cosmetic chaos. Lives aren't in danger, right? There's no threat to people's safety or security. But the idea is that any bit of cosmic chaos will eventually snowball into true disorder. And in reverse, if we do something about that cosmic chaos, I think that the belief then is that no other chaos will occur, that there'll be no, violence and things like that. And again, one reason that some of these stories work is because there is a little bit of truth in it, right? So I spent some time at an inner city school in Columbus, in Ohio, and it was an old school, and it was, 90% of students were on free and reduced lunch. It was, it was all the things. That is the cleanest building I have ever been in. Every single day, the people in that building with the kids included, had conversations about taking care of their building. And the idea was that as a community, they were going to take care of this space. Now, that's very different than over policing or over enforcing the rules. To me, that was a much better application of this information, which is make it aware. Hey guys, if we let that graffiti stay in the bathroom, who knows what's next? We got to keep this place clean.
Well,
We got
before
to take care of this
you
space.
said that, before you said had a conversation, as you were kind of revving up the engines to get to your point, I wrote down address versus punish, because one of the other reactions that humans tend to do, because it's easy, is I'm going to punish this behavior out of you. I'm going to consequence this behavior out of you. You can address everything. You don't need to punish anything. Right?
So, correct. So my research was totally done. All my notes were totally done. But when you said that earlier about what we want to do is, like, you're right. We can't tolerate behavior we don't want, but that doesn't mean we punish all behaviors. And so when I was talking, what I really was doing was updating my true actions. And that was something I felt like I had left out. Like, how do we act on this information? And your point is a great one. We should not tolerate behaviors we don't want. But it doesn't mean punishing them, right? Because here's what happens. So, if cosmetic disorder can lead to actual intense chaos, we do want to keep cosmetic order then. We want to keep the place clean and neat and tidy. But what we can't do is treat the minor infractions as if they are major infractions.
Yeah.
Because here's what's going to happen. If we start treating our citizens like criminals, if we start treating our students like criminals, they will meet that expectation. There actually is an episode of Criminal where they're talking to a man who lives in Cleveland, Ohio, and he gets
Criminal
stopped by
podcast?
police. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And he gets stopped by police all the time, sometimes justifiably, sometimes not. Right, because what ended up happening with broken window, for those that maybe don't know, is it led to policies such as stop and frisk, which basically gave police permission to stop anyone for any reason.
Gotta check that
Um,
broken window.
yeah, correct. And I get the reasoning behind
Sure.
it, but it doesn't work because it makes all citizens feel like a criminal. And the guy on the criminal podcast, just eventually he has a day where he starts yelling and screaming and he's fighting against the police, and he's like, "I'm over it. Every day I treated like a criminal, so I'm just going to behave the way they expect. I'm going to fight back against everything." And I think we have some students who are that way, right? Some
We
students
have
who,
some adults that are that way. I don't
yeah,
mean that like in a judgmental tone. Like as you're saying that, I hate that mentality. I hate that example of if you're going to treat me this way, this is how I'm going to be. If
yeah,
I'm honest with myself, I do the same. Maybe not to the
yeah,
extent of what he's saying, but you treat me a
yeah.
certain way. If I do get fed up, I'm like, fine, fine, I'm done. I'll be the villain you want me to be.
Yeah, and I've told that story about me with my one supervisor a lot, and honestly, it's an embarrassing story because I became something I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
But in some ways, it was one of those moments where he's like, he treated me as if I was just someone who asked too much, who was annoying, who demanded things that were unfair, and so just
I'm on
from
his side, by the way.
yeah, and so for a little bit, I became that guy. Maybe I was that guy before, I don't know, but I definitely leaned into that version of myself.
He sounds like a really great boss. Should we have him on the podcast?
Oh,
Okay.
that'd be a good time.
Well, I know you have some solutions, and I do as well. I want to point out something because it's just so damn frustrating to me. Because I'm hearing this study, and it's Malcolm Gladwell's mob mentality, and it's the broken window theory, and it's you and I saying it's also human nature that when you're treated a certain way, you become that thing. It's also human nature, which drives me nuts, that instead of having a hard conversation and sitting down with a student, or sitting down with a parent or a teacher or a friend or a brother or sister, whatever it might be, instead of addressing it in a human, let's take care of each other sort of way, it's so much easier just to have a consequence, to punish. I'm going to ignore you from here on out. I'm just not going to talk to you anymore. Like, it's so much easier. And it just drives me crazy because we know it's destructive. We know it's not going to solve the problem. Passive aggressiveness doesn't ever create the solution that we want. Um, so why do we do it all the time? So that's kind of where I spent a little bit of my time, just in the philosophical world. Why do we then do it? And the reality is, because I asked ChatGPT, I was like, if if this is the norm, if we can have the broken theory where, you know, if somebody breaks a window, that inspires the community to destroy the car. Well, if I went and planted flowers, you wouldn't see in equal time people building a garden, right? So why can't the inverse be true? And the reality is, and ChatGPT said, well, it is true. It just takes a lot longer because it's really freaking hard. It's
Yeah.
just so much easier to be destructive. It's so much easier to break a window or to ignore the coworker.
Well, the lesson, I'm going to retell this story. I've shared with you the story about, um, I would challenge my students to, I'd give them a pile of Legos and I would challenge them to,
Yep.
as quickly as possible, build a cube. And of course, to build something, it took them a little while. And I'd have another student writing down the conversation, right? A note taker, and they're just what things were said and all that. And so it would take a few minutes until they finally had the cube using as many pieces as possible. And then I'd say, all right, destroy it. And same thing, take notes, what's being said, how long does it take? They would destroy it in seconds and they didn't have to say a word,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and that's how life works, right?
Yeah.
Destroying is so easy, but it also, you do feel something. You get a rush. If you break that window, you're like, I did that. I had that impact.
Okay. So I love that you said that because um, again, kind of going way back when you did a great job of saying principals are either architects or artists. I want to name this because I think anybody, but especially educators, we gravitate towards what can be a quick fix. That's why so many people make millions selling things to educators that don't work because they promise a quick fix of behavior, they promise a quick fix of culture. So again, I just did some research of like why if we know, so this is my actual versus factual. We factually know that destroying a car is wrong. We factually know being unkind to somebody else is wrong. We factually know that the pain of being mistreated. So then why do we allow it? Why do we go do it? Why does our society embrace it? Why do we actually do it? And so three reasons came out. Um, one, it's reactive. It's so much easier to react to something than to factually go through the process of what do I know to be true. It's so much easier just to react on impulse. Number two, and this one was really interesting to me, oftentimes our disorder, it can be anonymous. You can do it in the dark. You can do it, you know, without without being in public. You can do it with. For me to address an issue, it's very public. I have to stand in front of you. I have to call you to my office. I have to give you a call on the phone. I have to take you out for coffee. You have to sit on the couch with my wife. I have to do this act of um, repair that is very personal and public, whereas my destruction can be anonymous. And then the third one, to your point, is it is emotional. There's an instant hit of connection when I destroy something, even if it's in the negative. Like you and me chatting about a coworker, we know it's wrong. We know it's destructive. We know it's not helpful to our situation, but we're connecting, and I like that. And
Yeah.
that feels better than having a hard conversation with somebody else. So
Can I expand on those points? Oh,
yeah,
you got
please.
more? Yeah.
No,
So here's a couple things then. Um, I think also it's to your first point, reacting is easier than predicting. Right? Because we actually don't know what might happen, so it's very difficult then to plan for the unknown. So what can we do for this imagined future scenario? So rather than trying to say, well, students might misbehave because we'll just wait till the misbehavior happens and we'll respond to it. Now, I will tell you that my strategy has always been to front load empathy and to really think, use my history with students to try to predict what might happen and then state that thing out loud and say, this is a difficult thing, but we're going to do it anyway. Right. But that can be difficult. And some people don't have the experience, the background knowledge to know what might
sure,
happen and then front load
sure.
that empathy. Another thing that I think is true is if we do the right thing that prevents something from happening later, we don't know that it was the right thing necessarily. Like sometimes we can do the research but
If you
to
don't
actually
throw a
prove
rock, you don't see the ripple. If I throw a rock, I see a ripple.
right, the nothing happening, why did nothing happen? Why didn't a rock get thrown? What was the reason?
Right,
And
right,
unless you could like correlation is one thing, and that is where the research went wrong a lot. Is it found data that correlated, but it was not causal. So to know what caused the improved outcome,
right.
that's a lot more difficult. You really have to hone in on specific details and have good data and good
Which
research. Otherwise, you
that
don't know.
is, so you're hinting at it, but that is a solution, right? That's a solution that we have to have in our buildings, in our families. Address it, but you need to address it in the way of you are trying to figure out the cause. What caused you to make this behavior? That takes time, and that takes energy, and that takes a struggle between you and somebody else, which is why we oftentimes don't do it. But that is the solution that we need.
I want to address one other thing you said before it gets away from us. You said that very often we are in the habit of looking for quick fix solutions. And I was like, oh man, this might be ours. We'll put a name on it, the quick fix paradox, but that actually already exists. And yeah, and when I did a quick research on it, one of the examples it gives is people who do quick fix weight loss, they end up gaining all that weight back plus
Plus.
some.
Yep.
So you really need to come up with the long-term, slower paced
But nobody
solution.
likes that.
Everyone hates it, and we do that same thing in school. And, you know,
Largely
I've
too,
said this a
I'm
thousand.
gonna interrupt you because I don't wanna
Yeah,
lose this point. And I think we're so addicted to that in school. I think this is true because we don't actually have the long-term ramifications. I can quick fix you and it solves my problem this year and for the next couple of years, and then you're gone. And
yep,
I don't have to
yep,
deal with you gaining the weight back plus some because you're out of my
yep,
building.
yep. And I have said that out loud often when we're in meetings. It's like, we can't just wait for this kid to leave the junior high, and
Yeah.
then he's not our problem because he's not better for it. You know, very often, especially if we have an eighth grader, it just becomes, how do we survive this, and then let him just move on to the next building and be the next problem. And
Okay, so let me
I
ask
hate
you
that,
this.
but it
Is
is
that I
easier.
don't like it either, but is there an allowance for it at times?
Tell me what you mean. What would that time be?
So again, I going back to Gladwell's mob mentality, there is in your bell curve of human behavior, there will be a small percentage of people who just want to create chaos. Okay? So this is also going to tiptoe us into one of the solutions. There is a small percentage of kids that no matter what you do, they will be perfect. They want to please you. They're the ones that detention actually works because they're so upset. Like I have a zero tolerance for throwing food in the cafeteria, and I don't care if you're doing it maliciously. I don't care if it's a simple little thing. Instantly, I'm not angry. There's no malice in my voice. It's just okay. You got to go wipe tables, right? You're cleaning. We're not going to destroy our cafeteria. I had a kid yesterday. Most of the time, the kids do it. I have some repeat offenders. It's not a big deal. One kid did it yesterday. He cleaned tables and he cleaned it. He apologized to me, bawling. I mean, he was so angry. And I had to put my arm around the kid, be like, "Hey man, I'm not upset. We're just not going to throw food in the cafeteria, right?" That consequence worked well for him. He will never throw food again. He's the 5% on that side. But then you have the bulk of the people who are swayed. And so what I mean by this is a very long runway to answer your question. We need to focus our attention on the 80% who are swayable, right? I can move the masses. That 5%, this is where we spend a ton of our time, or that 10%, we spend a ton of our time trying to curb these behaviors, but they exist, it's seemingly to create chaos. So it is every now and then that I think it's okay that, you know what, this child, we're going to do what's right by them. We're going to do the right thing. We're going to love them. We're going to care for them. I also just need them to leave my building.
So it is okay to not enjoy other people.
Sure.
It's okay to not want to be around them. It's
Sure.
okay if we're a little more relaxed if a student we have moves on to the next building. What I would say is we can't um we can't just hide from that kid and that behavior
Correct.
and try to wait it out,
Correct.
because
We still need to
that ends
address
up,
the issues.
yeah, yeah.
Always. But we also
Yeah,
just
I
can't
don't.
punish the hell out of them for the next year and a half until they leave because we feel
Right.
better.
Well, and I think, I mean, some kids are going to earn more punishment than others, but really what happens, and you use that word perfection a couple things, and I think that was one of the misapplications of the broken window theory is, you know, we over police, or we try to enforce every law, every regulation, because we're seeking perfection. I don't want to see any graffiti, any broken glass, anything. Well, perfection you're not going to get.
Yep.
And so you have to tighten the reins, tighten the reins, tighten the reins until you're just suffocating a community of people.
Yeah.
We
And
do
I
that
would
in
also
schools sometimes
argue
too.
that imperfection is beauty. So we go back to, I forget his name, but the improv, Bob Calhoun, he said an imperfections are gifts. They're not mistakes. They're gifts. Use them. And so in connecting with people and building relationships and all the things like being showing up to work and being allowed to be imperfect, that's a really fun place to be as long as my imperfection is not purposeful destruction and chaos. My imperfection is I'm trying the best with what I have. I'm doing the best with what I have. My intentions are pure, but I'm just incomplete, so I make mistakes. That can actually build a culture, and can some gifts can come out of that. So I agree with you. We cannot, though, have a child that we say they're a pain in the ass and therefore they're going to be an ISS the whole time, or we're just going to kick them out of
Yeah.
our building because they just cause problems. Okay. So can we walk into some solutions here, some tangible solutions,
Yeah.
some tangible. So do you have any off the top of the cuff that you just really want to speak out about?
Yeah, so I have a few, and I'll do the first one right away because it you showed this as well as could be with the way you respond to the throwing of food in the lunchroom. I think when applied incorrectly, you would just punish that kid. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna go into in-school suspension. You can't eat in the lunchroom for the next week, whatever it might be. But the true application and understanding of this would be that we want to model fairness and relational actions. So, one other thing that happened in a lot of these cities is they ended up just hiring more police, and those police were more visible. And when citizens were surveyed, they said they felt safer. But crime rates actually did not go down.
Hmm.
They just felt safer. Why?
Actual
Because they
versus factual.
Correct. And in this case, what was happening is they were building a relationship with the police force. One of the things that I think would be great is if I think police officers should live in the community that they're policing.
Interesting.
Relationship should be part of that. Um, because otherwise they become strangers. Like if you're policing a like now, but now you're policing your community and you're caring for your
It's your
community.
neighbor.
And
When you
so,
pull your neighbor over at a
yes,
stop sign, you know something about him.
and I do understand the dangers of like you let things go because you know them, but I think
I'm not saying
you
let
can
things
train
go.
somebody
So
out of
it's
that.
it's our conversation
Yeah,
of address versus punish. I'm gonna
yeah,
address it. Like I got pulled
yep.
over once for just. I mean, we were coming down a hill. It's like midnight. Coming back from a long road trip. There's a part of me that says the point of a stop sign is to see if there's traffic. If I'm in open road in Montana and I can see to the left and to the right a mile and there's no cars coming, I'm not gonna stop. I'm just gonna go right through it. And so I did, because it's the dead of night and I can see that there are zero cars coming. So I didn't even stop. I just blew through the stop sign and I got pulled over. Uh,
So there
I
was at least one car around.
Well, his lights were off. He was sitting in the dark. He's being a bit shady. And he knows me. He laughed about me, but he he kind of like hit my table or my windows like, Miller, you got to stop, man. You got to stop. Right. So he addressed it, but because he knew me, he understood this guy is not a villain. So
I'm starting to wonder if you're a true criminal because we were on the phone the other day and you got pulled over. You're like, I got to go get pulled over. I'm like, all right.
I did.
So,
He addressed it. He addressed it. I was going 82 and a 70. He addressed it.
not bad. Yeah.
You just got to bat your eyes a little bit at him, and he's all right.
Yeah. Mm.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I derailed you. Sorry.
I lick my lips and wink, and it's
Then I get
fine.
$20 added onto my fine.
I've always got a ticket, so I don't know. It's not working.
Sorry, I derailed you. So, but what you were saying though, I think is, um, we have to push in. We
Yeah.
can't
So
just
let me finish.
consequence.
Let me finish that thought. So what you did was you were visible. You were there, and all you said to the message that was sent was, "Hey, this is our community. We take care of it. Throwing food, that's not taking care of this community. So uh, you're just going to help me take care of this community a little bit because that's what we do here, right?" And that is modeling fairness. That's building relationships. And then it's not about treating them like a criminal, but treating them like an important member of that community. Right. And I think that was the biggest mistake of the broken window response was we started treating everyone like they were a criminal instead of treating everybody like they were part of the community and that they too could help keep this space the way we wanted it.
Yes. So, what do you do? Because I think there's different levels to this. One is environmental, which is what we're talking about, right? Like, don't, and I do talk about it consistently in my videos with my students. I'm intentional when I'm walking down the halls. I will stop kids if they walk over a sheet of paper. I'm like, hey, did you see the sheet of paper?
Mhm.
Hey, let's pick it up, buddy. Come on. It's something that I'm very passionate about. Keep our school clean because I do believe that the environment will impact behavior. But the reality is, it's environmental. It's not a huge deal. What is the big deal of allowance is when an eye roll occurs, when somebody is snotty to another teacher, when it's cultural stuff, when a secretary has a tone with a parent. We tolerate those more than we do throwing of food because those are harder. And because there isn't a factual, throwing food is bad. You had a tone, but now you can kind of argue around that. Well, I had a tone because, or I didn't. We allow perceptions to kind of come in. And once there's perceptions, it becomes mucky and we don't like mucky. So we disengage from those conversations. Is that true?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you continued on because I was about to say, what do you mean by it's more difficult? And to your point, when it doesn't align with something that is clear and obvious and tangible, it is harder to respond. One of the things that I learned pretty early, because there are a lot of people that understand the soft line between okay and not okay, and they hang out on that line, and because it's soft, they'll be like, no, I was on the other side. I was on the okay side of it. It's like, I don't know. So for me, I just got in the habit of saying, hey, I can't really place a finger on it, but that felt off. That didn't feel right to me. And then that starts a conversation.
Correct.
And you can say, here, it it felt like maybe you were upset. Maybe you were angry at that parent, or uh well,
Do you
what was
think,
that about?
and I
And
think,
then
I
go from
think
there.
maybe that's where I want to get at. Thank you for sharing that because that's kind of, I have not been able to like finalize or crystallize my solution, but that's it. It's just an addressing. It's a conversation.
Mhm.
You don't
Yeah.
have to have a, and so therefore this is what I need from you. You don't have to have a, I'm right, you are in the wrong, and I need to tell you that. It can just simply be, I just noticed a thing, and so I'm just checking in for my own self. And once it's a principal to a teacher, it has a little bit of a different feel to it because there is an authoritative figure. But I think you can still just say, man, I just kind of noticed that the tone you had, and I'm just checking in. There is everything okay? It felt off to me.
Yeah.
Would you agree that oftentimes that's enough?
Yeah, and for those of you that need it to be like a consequence or something, those conversations feel kind of kind of bad. They don't feel great. So it does have a bit of a consequence to it in that
Yeah.
the consequence is we have to work through this together now.
Yeah. Now, if I've had this
And then that's
conversation with
it.
you, so let's use
Yeah,
our
different
bell
story.
curve again, right? So the 10% that are awesome, that is going to feel like a heavy consequence, and they're going to send a follow up email of, "Hey, I'm really sorry about that. I really didn't mean that." And you're like, "No, you're good. We're fine. I just want to have the conversation. That was intentional. It was good. It was fine." The 80%, you're going to have the, we need to have two or three conversations, or you might need to push in a little bit and be like, "Listen, we've talked about this enough now. I need you to change this." So if I can give an example, I have a secretary that I love. She works hard. She's quality. She's fantastic. She has a bit of a gruffness to her, and she acknowledges it. And so we have some conversations, and most of them have been these little check-in conversations. At the end of every year, I give my staff a picture of, this is what you are. Like, I see this in you. This is what you bring to our school. And at times it's also an encouragement. I gave her uh, thornless roses, and I said, you are a rose. Like, you make this place great. You make it smell great. You make it sound great. You impact the beauty of this building. At times though, you have some thorns. And she just kind of smirked. She's like, I know. I'm like, I need you to be a thornless rose. Get rid of the thorns. They've got to go. They're not intentional, but they got to go. And she has that sitting on her desk, and you see it every now and then. She'll spike up, and you can kind of like give her a look, and she knows it. I know. I got to get rid of that thorn. It's not intentional. So I think that's like, we need to do that more. It doesn't feel like a solution because it's gray. But that is the solution. Wouldn't you agree?
It is the thing that I tell my teachers the most that has had the greatest impact on student behavior, which is just tell them what you need.
Yes.
Tell them what you need.
And then when they
That's
don't
it.
meet it, teach them how to do
Tell
it,
them again.
reteach it,
Exactly.
tell them
Yeah.
again. If they are the joker, like my goal is to create chaos, they live in a different sphere. We have different norms for them, but that's a low percentage of our students and our staff.
It really is. And it's important that we don't treat most people as if they are that criminal,
Correct.
because that
Pe-
will kill the relationship and they won't be on your team and they won't build that community with you.
People don't want to come to a school if they feel like everything that they do, there's going to be a consequence. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
work there. All right. Anything else you got on your mind?
Well, the last thing I think I want to say, so I've said often that kind of my approach to almost everything is communication, consistency, and compassion. And I think I've addressed, in our solutions most of them. But this compassion piece I want to mention one more time, because I do think, unlike over enforcing rules and seeking perfection, I think compassion truly can change trajectory. Compassion is the thing that can truly change the direction a student or a person is traveling in life.
Compassion alone?
I mean, it's got to be with action, but that compassion piece gets someone at attention. You know what I mean? Like it'll knock them off the path that they're currently traveling and say, wait a second, what is this thing? And now all of a sudden you have their attention and they can consider alternatives. Without compassion, they're head down and they're just going to continue that path. And
So can I
if you
push back
punish
and
them, they're just going to
yep,
fight you off. And
can I push in and maybe add and see if you agree with this? Compassion is the stop sign. It's what stops the current behavior. But compassion alone, maybe it's the teacher that has good relationships with bad kids, but the bad kids don't change their behaviors. I'm glad you have a good relationship with them. I'm glad they trust you, but they're not changing. So there needs to be compassion with direction, and there still needs to be accountability. And you can have those two other things and still be compassionate. If you have
let me
those
give you a
things
different
without compassion, then it's friction.
let me give you a different analogy, because I think the stop sign might actually just be the punishment, the rule enforcement. We're saying you have to stop it.
I blow through stop signs all the time. Stop signs don't
Yep.
make you stop.
You're one of those kids.
I am.
Uh,
And you know what stops me? Compassion, understanding, and a reminder of, buddy, you got to stop. You got to do it.
sure. And so in my mind, maybe the analogy would be more like the state sign, where you stop and you take pictures and things like that. Like, you don't have to stop at
No,
compassion, but
no,
like you want to.
no,
No?
Kasey, no, no. Because here's the
Okay.
reality, and I at times I don't care if you want to stop. You have to stop.
Yeah.
And the compassion is, I understand why you don't want to stop. I understand why you're angry. I To use your phrase, but you can't put your anger on everybody else.
Yeah.
You have to stop for the safety of you because they care about you. But also, if when you don't stop, you're going to put somebody else's life in danger. So you can choose not to stop. And if you choose not to stop, now I intervene. I'm going to pull you over. And if you continue to do it, I'm going to take away your license. Because
Yeah.
I need to
And
care.
I have said,
Go ahead.
I've often said that sometimes love looks like discipline.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I think that's absolutely true. And I think that's one of the great failings of some of our teachers and a lot of parents, and that they think that if they create structure and not discipline as in punish, but work to build self-control and a discipline of the individual, of the self, like they think the child will feel unloved. But I can tell you right now, as much as anything, kids want structure and balance
Sure.
and consistency. And in the moment, it may not feel like love, but long term, that
It
is
feels
what love
safe.
looks like. And love, like anything else, is something that is a slow building process. It's you can't love bomb someone and then expect them to love you forever. It has to
Sure.
be this, slow, consistent process.
You know what I'm curious about? And I would love for our listening audience to send us a response. I'm curious if leaving things on the stairs is a female predominant action because my wife also does it. And I do it now too, but I can't decide if I started it or if she did. So I'm curious if that's a female trait.
Okay, this ages me, but do you remember did you ever watch Everybody Loves Raymond?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you remember the episode where one of the two leaves luggage on the stairs
No.
and they don't even remember which one does it? And they both refuse to move it because they're mad at the other one. And so this just piece of luggage just stays on the stairs forever. It's a little bit like that.
Yeah. Because I can't decide too. I wonder if Jessica does this too. My wife certainly does this. And some of my other friends' wives do too, so we kinda laugh about it. But, like, garbage or boxes just at the back door, like, they just pile it by the back
Yeah.
door or on the porch.
Yeah. And what it becomes to me is so it's right outside the door into the garage. And it just
Yep.
becomes me like traversing the Mount Everest of boxes trying to get over to my car. The
And
number of
then up the
times I've tripped
stairs.
and
Man, by
yeah,
the time you
I've
get to
tripped
bed,
and
you are
no,
exhausted.
I am. I don't even have to work out anymore. I just have to walk through my house.
I love you, Jessica and Josie. I'm not saying anything about you. It's just funny. Okay. Hey, let's get some takeaways out of here. What do you got? I heard you typing away as we were talking. You gotta have a couple.
Yeah, no, I have a few. I think I wrote one thing you said down. Where's that at? uh I don't I had something marked. Oh, uh when you mentioned I'm gonna have to edit a little bit of that out. That was a real long pause. One of the things that you said, and it was like I wrote it down, but then I never said anything about it. Although we addressed, generally speaking, it takes too much time, but it's when you talk about the time and resources required to do something other than just punishing a behavior, like it is the great obstacle. Because in education, in policing, we don't have the time or the resources necessary, or at least we feel like we don't. And so
Because we
that in
don't.
the end is why
Oftentimes we don't.
like we don't. I think there's a way to be efficient.
Sure.
You know,
Or at least
I
better
spent
at it. But
yeah,
it is true. We don't.
yeah, and I always got in trouble, and I mentioned this 1,000 times, but I used to get in trouble because it was probably a month into the school year before I had grades in. It was like, how do you have grades in? What have we perfected? All we're trying to do is learn how to be students in this class, and it takes us weeks to perfect that. So no, I don't have grades in. And so it took a long time, and very few people are willing to spend those 2 or 3 weeks training people how to meet the expectations, right? That takes a long time. A lot of people would argue that's a waste of resources. So I just got like a month's salary just to hang out with kids and try to teach them how to behave and didn't teach any social
You
studies.
were overpaid.
I don't know about that. Yeah, so overpaid.
Yeah, and what did you brought her on. She said something like, I forget her name, you'll remember it in a second here, but she said, we don't have time not to make time. Um,
Yeah,
what was her name?
that was one of our gens. We've had a bunch of gens on here. That was
I always want to say Jen Abram, but she was
no, she's awesome too. Yeah,
yep.
I can't remember.
Okay.
One
Either
of our
way,
gens,
I
yeah.
like that phrase.
Which
And
actually
I
I
know,
thought about bringing her back on too. She was awesome.
yep. And I know that phrase is somewhat synonymous when we say do more with less. Like we have these phrases in education that really are, I think, abusive.
Yeah.
But I do think that that phrase makes sense to me because if you spend the time now, you save time in the back end. You don't have time not to have time because it is important. It is the thing that we're here for.
Well, we have a pretty big audience. What if we change that phrase to do more with more?
Ooh. Or do
Do more
less
with
with
more.
more. I like that one.
That would, I think that's the way to sell it. And we'd like to do less, but could we have more?
I think teachers would be on board. It'd be nice.
I I think Principal Lamb said that very thing.
Yeah, he did. I'm sure he did. Good God. Okay, here's my takeaway. You got me to a place that it's tangible. I can put it on my board and I can use it directly with my staff. It will impact my discussions today, which is we address everything. We don't punish everything. And that to me makes a shit ton of sense. We will address every broken window. That can be a 3-second conversation. It can be
Yeah.
a point. Hey, we don't do that. That's addressing it. We don't allow anything to break our windows, graffiti our walls, whatever it might be. We don't punish everything.
By the way, if you need language for this, it's very simple. So
I just had it.
yesterday I was walking through. Well, let me give you another one. We we yesterday I was walking through the halls and a kid threw something at another kid, and I just looked at him, made eye contact, and said, "Hey, at Sage Valley, we don't throw things in the hallways." I paused for a second, and then I moved on.
We
That's
can
it.
do that in North Middle School. Yep. Thank
Yep.
you for that language. I was really struggling on on how to address this.
I know my audience. You would have given this long soliloquy, this long personal story. The kid's like, "What did I even do? Well, you've been talking to me
We're getting
so
there.
long.
Shut up, kid. I'm
I
getting there.
know all about your entire life. What did I do?"
Kid, I just want to make a sign that you choose to pull over for.
I'm gonna go to what county are you in? Where you at? I'm gonna put Brian atop stop on every stop sign. Brian, stop. Brian, stop. Then you'll know it's for you.
All right. Hey, thanks for hanging out today. Good to see you this morning. I appreciate you, brother. Until
Yeah,
next
appreciate
week.
you too, man.
Thank you. Until next week, do great things.
And keep knocking.
See you, boss.
We're on video now, so I had to do it.